My name is George Boston Rhymes at kvci.blogspot.com. I'm standing here at the monument that was erected for and in honor of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a great civil rights leader, a reverend pastor of Jesus Christ, Nobel Peace Prize winner, entitled to such honors as this corridor that is put in place by the taxpayers of Valdosta, Georgia, and those who worked on the Martin Luther King Committee to get this done. We also commend the people that are journeying or will be journeying to Washington, D.C. on Sunday to pay tribute to the great civil rights leader, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., for he is indeed worthy of such honors. However, much like the Million Man March, George Boston Rhymes will not be going to Washington, D.C., nor did I go at the Million Man March. I see Jesus, Martin Luther King, George Washington Carver, Mark Noble Drew Ali, Elijah Muhammad, Nat Turner, John Brown, Fitzgerald Kennedy, Marcus Garvey, and others, just maybe in a different light than some of you. I don't want to placate nor duplicate what I've seen others do in belittling the life and legacy of great men and women like Shirley Chisholm, Cynthia McKinney, and others who gave so much, Maxine Waters, and the mother, Martin Luther King, wife. I don't want to play game with them. For the best way for me to honor them is by carrying on the very work of these great leaders and not just placating or playing games with their names. We know, history will show us that well, let me talk about me. I used to be a hypocrite. I used to go to church on Sunday, all through the week, telling people that I love Jesus. But when it came to helping the least among us, the people that were destitute, the ones who had locked out of the system, I didn't stand up for them because I was afraid. Oh, you can say what you want, but there are so many Christians, especially in the black African American community, they are living in fear, number one, and number two, they are living in denial. Now, I know that because I used to be the same way. I still know people that are doing that. Now, back to the point. Would Dr. King be happy with this monument, with the unemployment, the rate, the way that it is in the black community? Or would Dr. King be fighting and marching for equal employment, wherein you go to City Hall? Dr. King would want to see more black African Americans working in the city annex, getting contracts to construct the schools that are being built in our community. He would want to see some of this asphalt that is put down out here maybe given to some black contractor. Maybe some of this concrete and sidewalk work here being done by black African American contractors or subcontractors, so that money will be turned over in the black community so our young children won't be on the street selling drugs and prostituting their bodies. I think that this is the march that Dr. King would call for. I think that Dr. King would call for an obelisk such as this to erect and bring in the wealth gap between blacks and whites. Right now they say whites make 20 times as much money as blacks, or they are worth that much more financially than blacks. And so I believe that Dr. King, if he was going to march to Washington, he would march not to erect a piece of stone, mortar, brick, or clay, or not even gold. He would go up there for the most precious resource that God left us, and that is human beings. And so as we look at this obelisk, and we look at what they're doing in Washington, D.C., I'm a non-participant. I don't play that game anymore. I used to. When they have ceremonies out here, I used to come to them. I used to go to the church right here, St. Paul. I used to go to Methodist Auditorium, wherever there was a ceremony for Dr. King. But when I found out that the very people, in most cases, who put on these events, when it comes down to the 30 deaths that we had out here in the Lowndes County Jail, they don't show up. They don't write about it. They don't speak of it. When you hear about we being under 1971 court order, trying to get more black teachers in the Valdosta City School system, these same people are nowhere in the newspaper, nowhere in the forefront of trying to bring about change wherein it could cost them for taking a stand, maybe even their jobs, and in many cases, maybe their lives. This is the real march that Brother Rhymes partake in. I partake in the Equipment 10, who was just registering people to take part in the electoral process that were arrested on December 21st, 4 days before Christmas of last year. I'd rather put my energy in marching with them to ensure that voters' rights are respected. That is my march. That is my journey to Washington, D.C. That is my obelisk. When people are beat up in the Lowndes County Jail, and when I bring it to City Council, and they refuse to even listen to it, or they listen but don't respond to it, that's when I erect my obelisk. When the Valdosta Daily Times refused to publish this sidewalk out here, some of it was busted up. They didn't say nothing in the newspaper about it. No pictures were presented. This obelisk up here had defects in it. Of course, we ensured, Brother John Roberts and myself, that they were repaired. But not one picture was on television or radio or on in the newspaper here in South Georgia. So why is that? That is my obelisk. My obelisk is standing up for what is right. I don't need to go to church and sit down and make myself appear to be a good person. The way I want to be seen as a good person is what I do for the least of these, my brothers and sisters. And so, I'm going to close this out by saying to you, the only purpose in me cutting this today is to let you know. When people ask me, Brother Ryan, we know you're going to Washington. Brother Ryan don't take trips like that. If I was going to go to Washington, I want to go to Washington because the people in Washington needed some physical support to bring about immediate change to human beings. I don't want to go to Washington to be seen or to take a picture with me holding the hand of a dead statue. I don't want to go to stand in front of a building that has no life. Jesus said it, and I'm going to sum it up with this. Jesus said, there would not be one stone left upon another that would not be torn down. Jesus didn't care nothing about brick, mortar, clay, and stone. Jesus was concerned about the living human beings on this planet. So now, how can we say that we love Jesus, we love Muhammad, we love Buddha, but we don't take a strong stand on the issue with all these churches in our community, both black and white, got mega churches, even $1 million black churches. But when it comes down to the 30 jail deaths, the inhumane conditions, and the one white lady who had all of her front teeth knocked out, gouges on both of her legs, she came to me. And I went to the mayor and our elected officials, and they said and did nothing. Yeah, my obelisk is when I try to get a park renamed over there on the west side of town when black folk criticize me for doing it. Because they don't understand in that level, it was about the park. It wasn't about the park, it was about the segregation of that park, and then to keep the man name that banded us from that park. Now that to me worth marching for, and that's what we marched for, and 15 of us went to jail for. But that is what I want to do. I want to be remembered by what I do for the least of these, my brothers. I don't need to be lifted up, or for somebody to say, well, he was the president of the or that he was the chief of band in the Shriners, or he was the wishful master in the lodge, or the Masonic. I don't need that. What I want to do is to leave a life of committed work behind. That I did something to leave a scar in the wickedness of a city, the wickedness of a nation, the wickedness of a world, to bring about a better world. That's my destiny. That is my goal. And somewhere I read, though we suffer and though we die,